I messed that up. Then all of a sudden, they're more likely to take ownership and accountability for something that's not going well. During COVID, I really I learned a lot about this because when I was coaching, I had to really pay attention. What did the players, who was in front of me, and what did they need on this day? Because they really needed, a lot of times, something from me that, I would have this elaborate practice plan, and they'd, walk in 8 hours in front of a computer or iPad, and they're like, Coach, can we just play today? Yeah, we can play. Because that's what they needed, right? So, building trust, understanding who's in front of you, admitting when you're wrong, right? Now, this group that I coached, they were 17 when I just passed them on and I was done. But it was amazing. Our first game this season, we come off at halftime and something's not working. And so I have my whole halftime thing of what I'm going to fix. And my team captain comes off. He goes, Coach, give me the whiteboard. And he comes, he sits down, and he goes, see this what's happened here? We need to do this, this, this. Boom. Gave it back. I was like, I'm done. I got nothing else to say. Right? Because I trusted him, showed him trust, and I gave him ownership of the experience. So when we trust players and we build trust with them, then we build trust with parents. Think of it as like a bank, right? You need to make deposits in that bank so that eventually you make withdrawals with players. And eventually you're going to make withdrawals with parents as well. I try to notice things when something's not right, when a kid seems off, and I'll reach out to a parent and I'll be like, hey, Jake something's not right there. Is there anything going on? Almost every time I've had one of those conversations in a phone call with a parent, their response is, oh, yes, we didn't want to tell you because we didn't want to burden you, but we're going through a divorce. Dad has cancer. Grandma just died. Right? Thank you for noticing. Thank you for seeing my child. Right? And so you put those deposits in the bank so that you can make that withdrawal later on when you say you're not cutting it. What you're doing is not there. You're not getting it done. And you put those deposits in the bank with parents so that they don't go to your boss or your athletic director or whatever. Maybe they come to you and they say, I know you care so much about my son. I know you care so much about my daughter. Something seems off here, right? That's trust. One of the things we have to teach parents, right? Because we have to engage them and we need to fill the information gap for them. You know what kids say when they're interviewed when they quit sports and they leave sports? You know what they say their number one worst memory is? The ride home. The ride home after. Because mom and dad or whoever has got them locked in the car and they're going to make it a teachable moment. And what kids tell us over and over and over is this is the least teachable moment. Right? Now, every kid is different, right? So I have a son and a daughter. My daughter, when we would get in the car, she would be like, Dad, how do you think I did? And so I would always try to be really consistent with her. I'd say, regardless of whether I thought she had her best game or worst game, I'd say, hey, Maggie, well, what went well today? What needs work? What did you learn from today that you can work on in practice this week? 3 questions: best performance, worst performance. The question, how did I do today, has never once occurred to my son in the car. You know what occurs? Where's the food? What can I eat? But then, right, usually that night we have this understanding of like, all right, let's talk about the sport. Let's talk about the game. When the emotion's gone. Right? And they can actually learn something. I think as a coach, this is your post-game talk as well. Right? Do you really have to say something now versus in the hotel that night or at practice the next time, right? When they're actually ready to learn. And then the next thing that I would say is what we can teach our parents. A couple simple words. And if you saw my TED Talk, this was the idea we're sharing. And, I put so many, it was a 14-minute talk. I think I put 100 hours into this talk. This is 10 years ago now, to get this right. And it was 2 weeks before. And I recorded a PowerPoint and sent it off to my mom, my biggest fan. And she said, wow, John, that was a great talk, but I don't know what you're talking about. Thanks, Mom. So I realized I needed an idea. And so the idea we're sharing, and this is certainly not an original idea from John O'Sullivan, it's biblical, right? That after you play, after everything, the best thing a parent can say to their kid is, I love watching you play. I love watching you compete. And I get so many people who will come to my talks and they'll be like, oh yeah, that seems silly, but it changed everything. Because when they ask kids, like, who do you love to watch your games? You know who they say? Grandma and grandpa. Because they just love watching you play, right? I remember my grandma came to I was a baseball player growing up. It was like middle school baseball game. And she's like, oh, John, you did so amazing. I'm like, Grandma, I struck out 3 times. Oh, but you swung so hard. So we tell our kids, I just love watching you play, right? We teach that to parents and beautiful things happen, right? This is how we take our coaching from transactional to transformational. We coach the child, not the sport. We realize we become relentless connectors, and we develop these skills, and we develop these skills, right? We become a great coach. We engage parents, regardless of the level we're at. And we realize the most important thing, and if you listen to our podcast called Way of Champions, and I sign off, we're at 382 episodes now, every week for however long that is. I've never done anything that consistently before, but we always release episode every week. And I sign off everyone the same way. Your influence is never neutral. Every time you walk into a room, you leave an impact, you have influence, and it's either positive or negative. So you have to be really intentional about it. And the more aware of your influence you are, the more powerful it is. I tell that to my team captains. I tell that to the leaders. I tell that to coaches. Be aware of your influence because it's never, ever neutral. Right? We can't keep losing 3/4 of kids to sport. It's not good for our society. It's not good for kids. As Larissa taught us, they spend so much time here. Right? They're not out. And so they need a great sporting experience more than ever before. Right? And that's up to us. And I want to thank, I don't know where Aaron is and everyone from the coach's site, getting you here, and thank all of you for taking the time and a tough time to get here tonight and skipping the early beer so you could hang here with me, but with all these amazing coaches all this weekend. Because what you take from here is influence. The ability to influence your players in a better way. And that's what changes everything. So that's all my contact info. If you email me, that actually goes straight to me. As far as like Instagram and Twitter, good luck. I won't reply because I try not to be on there. LinkedIn's pretty good. Just look for Coach John O'Sullivan. There's reasonable people on there, right? And that's it. Website, everything like that. Podcast, Way of Champions. I think there's some books out still on the table out there. So if you want to grab a book, and I'll sign it for you, and then you can hawk it on eBay tomorrow. That's fine too. All right? So use your influence for good. Make a difference. Take what you learned here and share it. Take the best stuff. Take good notes. And if you have any questions, I'm going to go get a beer too, so come find me there. All right? Thank you all so very much.